concern and anxiety on top of everything else that's basically going on. So in some individuals, in seeing this, thought it was basically a piggybacking of that type of proposed legislation, and they reached out to me. And I just, again, want to just say thank you for the willingness to have the discussion at the table so that we can.
Hello, Kara Floyd, Brooksville. I'd like to start by stating that you guys are unbelievable. I've reviewed the newly updated Neola policy, suggestions that you can choose not to implement. And if we had a transparent school board, Ms. Duvall wouldn't need to concern herself with restrictions on citizens' First Amendment rights, which it seems is what she alone, not Neola, took upon herself to discuss with Mr. Alfonso. I mean, it's so glaringly obvious that Ms. Duvall is detached from reality and thinks we don't have the right to question her or the board. But I'm also here to bring up an email between myself, Moms for Liberty, and a school staff employee in regards to removing the pornographic books from our libraries. I have the email here. It's also public record, and it says that we are in the process of establishing a committee to review the books that are in question. It also requires a form to be completed for each and every book. So what this email tells me is that Moms for Liberty exposed these pornographic books at the November 16th meeting, and they were so obscene that you had to censor them from public viewing, but not too obscene that your staff decided to take their sweet, precious time to look into forming a book review committee and require a form to be completed for each book. So what this means is that these pornographic books are still in our libraries. And that means that Mr. Stratton and Mr. Alfonso, you're fibbing. I mean, there is a slim chance that, as has been witnessed here on different occasions, that you either have extremely poor communication with not just your citizens, but with your school staff employees. I don't really feel you deserve the benefit of the doubt, though. So let me just say this. I mean, we know it's 2022, it's election year. School board elections take place on August 23rd. And you know, it's sad that some of the board members up for re-election, some of them are going to be known as the board members who lost because they kept pornographic books in our libraries and worked really hard to prevent citizens from exercising their First Amendment rights. Is that what you want to be remembered for? Because people are watching, citizens are listening, and Moms for Liberty will continue to expose your incompetence. Thank you.
Good evening, all. I hope you're doing well. I have to say it was very, very refreshing to see these young, beautiful children saying their grace. It's really, really kind of sweet. And I like the fact that these other younger guys were acknowledged for doing their good deeds with the technical school. I also want to thank you, Jimmy, for responding to our letters that we wrote to you. I really appreciate the fact you took a moment of your time to acknowledge me. I do appreciate it. I'm wondering if all of you know what natural law is, or if you're even aware that it exists. It's a system of law that's based on close observation of human nature. These intrinsic values are consistent behaviors of moral law. We do what we are naturally inclined to do in order for us to survive in today's society. Up until the time the current Marxist socialist regime took power, most of children's sexuality, their gender issues, personal sexual questions and stuff were usually handled by parents. I know, as the mother of 4 daughters, I answered a lot of questions about sex with them, believe me. And you know something? It was never an issue that we took care of that in our own home, of course, until this regime pushed it as part of their agenda. Just recently, the Florida legislature passed a law that's called the Parents' Bill of Rights, or don't say gay. This bans schools from talking about LGBTQ topics that are not age appropriate for students. It's also out of your scope of practice because those are issues handled by licensed mental health care therapists, etc., not by school teachers. You can't even control the classrooms now. How can they talk to kids about what sexual gender identity and things like that? That's left to professionals who are licensed to do that. Okay? So ultimately, a child's sexual identity and gender should be handled at home with the parents. Parents are more aware of their kids' psychosocial needs than any school person ever could be. And in closing myself, I do want to say that the word is out about this with the sexual books in school, the porn that's in there, and the inappropriateness that this is available to children and minors under the age of 18. Citizens are waking up, and I hope that you all will too. Thank you very much.
Spring Hill, and I've been here a few times. Today is not going to be as long as most times. We all sent emails for you wanting to censor us and cut our time down. And I want to commend you, Jimmy, for being the only board member that responded to any of us and for saying that you would stand up for everyone's First Amendment rights. I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about people that come up here and oppose anything that I say too. Everyone's First Amendment right is very important, and it's not right for you to cut any of it down. Now then, I also want to thank Monty Floyd for bringing out a lot of issues and causing people to come up here and get involved. Everyone needs to be involved. That's what the problem is. People haven't been involved. We're involved, and we're going to stay involved. All of these issues, like I said, I want to thank him for at least bringing it out and making people aware of it. We got a lot of keyboard warriors out here that want to bash us and carry on and say that we're lying and all this kind of mess out there on Facebook and wherever. Well, you know what? I think y'all ought to start coming and getting involved. You want to run your mouth about everything, but you don't even know what time the place is voting for you all. So, thank you very much. And thank you again for at least addressing us.
Our next speaker is.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good night. And honestly, I think my wife, I love my wife. That goes without question. I love Moms for Liberty. It's a great organization. But I think they were too easy on you guys. Because earlier, a board member brought up from Neola a suggestion to limit free speech. She claimed that there was members who reached out to her in the community that suggested we should cut back on the time. I've read the Neola policies that are being shared in the Sarasota School District and other districts around the state. It's almost identical to what was proposed in this county. Now, it'd be nice for me to go into my job and tell my boss that I'm not going to do my job. I'm going to outsource it to this other contracting company like Neola that's going to do board policies and lead and write stuff, and I'm just going to sit back and rubber stamp it. I don't think that's going to go too well. I think I'd be fired pretty quick, and I've been in higher ed for 20 years. I was in consulting and auditing. If someone tried to pull that with me, they'd be out the door too. Now, the free speech aspects. A lot of people died and fought for that right to free speech. For the board to even consider it, it should have just been shot down. No, we're not even going to consider it. We're going to stand up for this. There's a lot of people from Hernando who died for free speech. That's a God-given and inalienable right enshrined in our Constitution by our founders. It should not be up for debate. Now, the people behind me and at home, we're your boss. We're the taxpayers. You guys report to us. All elected officials report to us. And I don't care if it's the dog catcher or the president, you guys work for us. We pay your salary. Our tax money pays for all this and more. So, again, I don't know how I could go into my boss's office and say, listen, I don't really want to hear from you anymore. I'm going to limit your free speech. And by the way, I'm still going to take your money. And I'm going to take that money and take a lot of it, by the way. I'm going to raise how much money you pay me, give myself a raise. And I'm going to go give $100K or so a year to Neola to write my own board policies and do all the work for me.
All right.
I just wanted to circle back to the library books and be real clear about that, that when we're alerted to a book, we do pull it off the shelf, but it's not going to stay off the shelf unless there is a form filled out and then the actual challenge happens because there's specific information you fill out on the form, then that process kicks into place. So I just wanted to be real clear on that.
I don't want to be redundant, but I agree with everything that was said tonight in the board. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Drive safely, stay healthy, keep coming back. Thank you.